afternoon, our audience here in person and to everyone watching us online. Welcome to the latest installment of our History on the Edge series. And today I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Inna Ganschow, research scientist from the Center of Contemporary and Digital History at the University of Razvoj. Inna Ganschow comes from Kazakhstan and is a very successful television journalist, scholar, and writer. Her alma mater is the University of Trier, Germany, where she was trained in Slavic studies and media studies, and where she got her PhD in postmodern Russian literature in 2012. In 2025, Dr. Inna Ganshow's book, No One Cried, There Were No More Tears, about Soviet forced laborers in Luxembourg during the Second World War from a transnational perspective, was awarded the Luxembourg Book Prize for the best scientific and reference book. Today, Dr. Inna Ganschow will talk about developing a secure digital workflow for at-risk testimonies. Her lecture emerges from the international UCOR research project focused on the collection, preservation, analysis, and disclosure of Ukrainian testimonies of war. And the floor is yours.
Дорогі колеги, hvala za povabilo. That would be it for my Slovenian. Thank you very much. I'm actually very happy to be able to share our research results, or at least the preliminary results. So today I'll be speaking about the project which we started in 2022 as a pre-project, so to say, and then the actual project started in 2024. So I'll be talking about the project which is connected to the full-scale invasion of Russia and Ukraine, to the war testimonies Ukrainian displaced people and refugees were giving to us. And the plan is pretty detailed, but I actually timed myself. We should be done in 40 minutes at the latest. So it's very detailed, but it's mostly for me so that I know what I was actually going to share with you. So I'll be introducing the project. We'll start with the legal framework, we'll do data modeling, then we'll be speaking about the interviewing and reporting, transcription, identifying sensitive information, disclosure, and then I'll be giving a short conclusion and really looking forward to your questions, which don't have to be exactly to the presentation. I'm always looking forward to an exchange with colleagues who are dealing with historical material, which is very subjective and personal, like oral testimonies. So the team you see, well, we are a very female-dominated team, which also explained actually by the fact that most of our colleagues are Ukrainians. Only women are allowed to leave the country, and that's why we have displaced Ukrainians in Lviv. This is one of our partner organizations, or one of the parts in the project. This is the Center for Urban History. We also have refugees from Ukraine in the Polish team, which is represented by Anna Veligala in Warsaw, in the Institute for, this is a Polish Academy of Science, but the Institute is for Sociology and Philosophy. And then Luxembourgish team is Center for Contemporary Digital History. And this is Professor Marta Benkin, and I'm not sure that I mentioned Natalia Drishchenko is the principal investigator that we have in Ukraine. So when the war started, most of us were dealing with refugees not professionally, just like volunteers. For example, the colleagues in Lviv, they just accommodated the Ukrainian displaced person in their offices. So people were sleeping on the floors in their building. So the Polish later team members were volunteering at the borders. In Luxembourg, so myself and my colleagues, we went to the borders to pick up refugees. And actually, in the organization, I volunteered, so we managed to accommodate 800 Ukrainians and 300 German families. So just dealing with the people on a different reason, but being historians, journalists, media specialists, migration scholars. So of course, at a certain point, we realized like, we're speaking with these people, just not on the record. It should be documented. And this documentation initiative quickly came to took the shape through the personal connections between the team members. That's how we developed a common questionnaire. So we wanted what we want to ask people so that it's systematically. We knew that we need all the legal framework be completed so that we signed all the ethical agreements, confidentiality papers. So everything what obliges us as scholars like to treat information properly should be done. And the narrators, people who are speaking to us, they should be also given the possibility to sign the informed consent and to say, I am agreeing by talking to you about my experience to this, but not to that. And if you do this, only under this condition and not. So this pre-project, which started in 2022, is later became actually the part of the current project. We call it the first round of interviews. Because we had the longitudinal approach, we wanted to interview people twice, if possible. And the current project is actually the second round of interviews. So the project has a long, pretty complicated name, researching the collecting, preserving, analyzing, and disclosing of Ukrainian testimonies of the war. The short, we call it UCORE. And you see that the project started officially as a second round of interview in January 2024. It is 48 months written, but this is 48 months for our PhD students. They need 4 years to complete their dissertations. Our project will be done actually by the end of 2026, so in 3 years. It is funded by the Luxembourg National Research Fund and also by the Polish Academy of Sciences, plus in-kind contribution from the Lviv Center for Urban History. So our principal investigator, as I already mentioned, is Marta Dwenken. In Poland, it's Anna Wylegawa, and in Ukraine, Natalia Otryshenko. So my presentation today, so whatever I'm speaking about the Luxembourgish part of the project and the digital workflow we developed in Luxembourg for Luxembourg, so that it's not misunderstanding that it's considers all the 3 countries. All 3 countries, different disciplines, we figured out that everyone had to modify this digital workflow. So I'm presenting you the Luxembourgish one. So basically, I'm presenting the paper 5 of us are writing, and our research question is, how should this digital workflow for the oral war testimonies be designed? And what I mean is this collection, storage, analysis, and disclosure. So how should it be designed? And that's actually, that's the point. When the data involved is sensitive under GDPR and the conflict is still ongoing. So all the oral history practices we had to deal with before are mostly about the memories about a closed event in the past. So now we are dealing with an event which is not closed. This is the first thing. The second thing, it is an event, it's a war conflict, and we don't know when it's going to end and how it's going to end. So whatever legislation is going to be applied in Ukraine later, we need to make sure that under every scenario, people who are giving us the interview are protected, that nothing can be harmful to them or to the other people they're mentioning in the interviews. So that's basically what we were trying to figure out, and I think we actually did. So the legal framework that has certain specificities. So since we are 3 countries, we needed to be reminded of that Poland and Luxembourg are in European Union. That means that the general data protection regulation, all these rules which are in the EU law, they're only applicable to 2 countries in the project. Ukraine has its own data protection regulation, and the paperwork which our PIs and lawyers had to do to align everything, it was remarkable. There, you cannot imagine how many months you can negotiate these documentations to make sure that it's aligned. The papers which our narrators were signing for us, it was actually a set of documents. So you see here 3 screenshots, the 2 first ones, that's for the first round. And the last one is from the second round. I'm showing this to you so that you have an idea with what we started with and how we had to modify, because that's also part of this workflow. So all our narrators, they received these documents they are going to complete in advance, so that they had the chance to read through, to understand, have questions, and when they come to interview and will fill this and sign, that they know what it's about. If something not clear, they can ask, and they can also say, they also receive the questions in advance. I prefer to answer those questions, but not those. So the biogram, that's the biographical information. So you see, we started with the 15 questions, and we thought all the questions are pretty understandable until we figured out in the second round that things like education or profession can be interpreted differently. What we realized so 3 countries are recording interviews, asking people the same questions, asking them to complete the same forms. And then we see that we understand education as a level of education, but in other countries it's understood as a what kind of university did you attend? And the same with the profession. Some countries understand as like, as what were you trained? Historian. And other countries like, as what are you working actually? So what are you doing for living? So that's why we actually did the second round of interview to improve this. In the consent form, informed consent had 4 purposes for which this interview can be used: for this research project, for academic communication, for education, and for exhibitions. We had 3 options for the answer. Yes, I agree that it will be used. No, I don't agree that it will be used for this purpose. Yes, I agree, but only if you remove my first and last name. That's what was insufficient, and we needed a 4th option. So because some people said, like, you remove my name and all the personal data. So in the second round, you see in the third screenshot, so that's what we added. So we had first, we added another purpose: artistic reasons. People want to have to do a performance. They need material. They would like to listen to an interview of someone who survived the beginning of the war. So artistic purpose was added, and another option for every purpose. So now we had 5 purposes and 4 options for each of them. So that's kind of the things you are dealing with in the consent form, which has to be transformed to the data model. You need to organize this information the way so that everyone who will be dealing with this collection later, even without the data itself, just see the metadata, the information which is collected, understands what is inside. So what we did, so we, first of all, we excluded sensitive information from the personal information. The GDPR says sensitive information is a part of personal information. You have to treat this equally. But GDPR were developed for peace times. Nobody was expecting that it will be also applicable in the war times. So our solution, that's our innovation, that we go beyond the GDPR regulation and we say, like, sensitive information should be removed from the personal information and treated differently. That's our researchers' point of view. So the other thing is, we have, as an oral history guru, Michael Frisch, for example, we have this idea of the co-shared authority. The narrators have a voice and they have an authority to decide and co-design what should be treated how. Like, if they say, like, it can be used and reused, then we want them to have this opportunity on these papers. And then, as you see in the description, that it's in the model, you later also see these definitions. And we treat data, not only the data we collected, like what people have written in the forms, but also, like, what did they say? Because whatever they say, this is probably the most sensitive information, not where they're born. This as well, but the content should be treated as a collected data. So the data modeling, we used component metadata infrastructure, Clavin. As much as I know, is it the Ljubljana Center for the CMDI, right?
We have a big Clavin team here, but I think the main office is in Netherlands.
Yes.
I know that Ljubljana is pretty active in the CMDI infrastructure. Yeah,
Yeah, incredibly. I mean, even the chief of the director of the international structure works at our institute, actually, but
the
she's not.
direction.
Daria Fischer, yeah, but she's not here that much because Netherlands.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we did. So we used this infrastructure because actually there are different infrastructures available. Some are more suitable, I don't know, for libraries, for the oral history collection. So we decided for this because it's you can really build, and I'll show you how we build this model. You can take the component. It's a very creative process. I mean, if you're looking for a creative challenge, build a model for your data in the project. So we needed to unify this model, and so since we said like we are going beyond the GDPR regulation, so we treat sensitivity as a phenomenon which is not part of the personal data. So we came up with also component sensitivity, and as you see, it's in blue the component sensitivity, right? So it has two elements in yellow. One is the time code. The spoken word begins at a certain second in the interview and it ends at a certain second in the interview, right? And every of the segments is sensitive out of a certain reason. We call this definition of sensitivity. And this definition has two sources. The researchers, we have our understanding of what we think is sensitive and should be restricted in the access. But also the narrators, because we asked them in the second round of interview, we asked everyone, what do you think is sensitive? What do you think is sensitive in your interview? What do you think you said now or in the first round? What should be maybe restricted in the access? So that's how our model looks like now. So we have the information to the narrator. This is personal data most of the time. Then we have the record. A lot of this, so this is the recording itself, the interview. A lot of the information there is automatically generated. Just because the interview is recorded, you see how long it is, right? You can see how big the file is. You can see when it was recorded and so on. But there's also the notes by the interviewer. So you write like in what language was the interview recorded. This is what system doesn't recognize. So contributors are basically the institutions who are working on this collection. And sensitivity, our decision was to treat this as a separated component which is interlinked with three other ones, but it does not belong to the record. It does not belong to the narrator. It has its own place in the model. So it has time where it begins and stops in the interview, and it has a classification. Interview and recording. In Luxembourg, we tried to do this in the university studio as much as possible. We have media sphere with the studio which has the professional equipment and installation. The best advantage is actually that's the interview is recorded on the encrypted server. You don't have to carry this through memory stick or send it via email. So that's just less data bridges. So the, as I said, so biographical form and informed consent were completed at the spot, but people were they received this documentation in advance. All the interviewers signed the confidentiality agreement. We needed to go through the certain ethic committee sessions, and the psychological support was offered to both parties of the interview. So for the interviewer and for the interviewee. So we had a protocol which actually obliged us to treat our interview partners as war traumatized people, regardless of whether they're traumatized or not. But that was the approach which was selected to ensure the well-being of our narrators and the interviewers. Which will take us to the next step in a second. This is the transcription, because there will be another person traumatized, someone who will be transcribing the interview. So the collection is in CatTV. It is a multimedia asset management tool. It's basically a catalog where you can, if you recorded your interview on video, on audio, you just feed in, and then you see like every interview is it's aligned. Certain things are recognized automatically, like the duration, like the format. The naming is a formula we came up with. This is the date of the recording. That's how you see that is it first or second round of interview, because 2024, it's that second round. Everything before it will be the first round. C2DH, so that's then the institution who was recording this. L for Luxembourg, it's for country where is the interview recorded, because people moved. So some people were not there for the second round when they were for the first round of interviews. And then you see actually the number. This naming will stay for all the documents, all the files. Everything what's related to this person will be named equally, only the extension will change. If it's a audio interview, it will be WAV. If it's a transcriptions, it will be doc or PDF or RTF, whatever the format of the text file was. If it's metadata, then it will be CSV file or whatever. But this is important because later, when you start to disclose this, the application I'm going to present you today and show how it's solved, this is how the system will be recognizing. There will be no possibility for an error, because the system will be looking for exact the same naming in the process. So you see this as a list. You can click, unfold, and see then the metadata and so on. So transcription. Next step in the workflow. We had different understanding on how it should be done. We had finally within the project 2 different modes. One is the automatic speech recognition, ISR, and there's a tool like Whisper. It is artificial intelligence which can be used locally, so you don't have to upload your interview somewhere in the internet. You do it on your computer, and then you need someone who will be proofreading this. The advantages: the generated file has time codes. You will need these time codes later to identify the sensitivity. You need to mark this not in the text, it's page 2, paragraph 3. You need an exact time position. So, and the second mode, which was chosen by other teams in the project, they preferred rather to pay the technology to pay a human being. So that's a person is doing this translation, and then we are back to the traumatic experience. One is speaking, the other one is listening, and the third one is transcribing. So we had actually a participatory experiment within the project where we also offered people who wanted to transcribe their own interviews. So to have this experience, it's emotionally very difficult. So, but nevertheless, there were different decisions made in the project, and we tested both possibilities. If you have a manual transcription in Word file, in another document form, you'll need to go through the first alignment process. This is also developed within our project by Vladislav Sulin. You see him, that's our student assistant in the gray hoodie. So he developed a mechanism which forces the audio file and the written text into a format where you have time codes to your text. It's an SRT file, it's subtitles file that will allow you to do next steps like identifying sensitive information. We have this forced alignment training is available on the GitLab. We have, so if you go to the GitLab, you'll see University of Luxembourg, C2DH, UCore, and then you'll see 7 trainings. So that's all developed by a computer specialist for the humanists, for people who don't have a clue about technology. It's all developed actually for historians, oral historians, migration scholars, for people who are working with oral history but don't have like particular technical skills. So it's very user-friendly. So now, ta-da! It's all done. Now you can start identifying the sensitive information. How do you do this? So I use the slide from the Anna Kravenko's presentation, which is based on the conference paper by Anna Wolegawa and Natalia Otryshenko in Krakow last year. So this is the two lists with the definition of what is considered to be sensitive in the definition of the researchers. And this is the definition of the, here it's called data subject by the narrator. So these 2 lists are crucial for identifying, annotating, and restricting this information, because what we want to make sure that whatever we publish is accessible first now, and second, it's not harming the eyewitness or people who she or he is mentioning. So for this annotation process, for this identifying sensitive information, so there was 4 eyes principle. So Irina Pogrubinska, our colleague in Luxembourg, so she was working as an annotator 1. So what she actually did, she just read the entire collection of Luxembourg, all the transcriptions, to code, to thematically mark the sensitive information in her opinion. She used MaxQDA. It is a content analysis tool, very beloved by sociologists. You can define your topics according to your research question. So our research questions in Luxembourg were mainly migration and sensitivity. So she was reading through the text, marking, like applying the code migration or the code sensitivity to the text, to make sure that whatever in her opinion was thematically coded as sensitive, we needed a reviewer. So this is where Hanna Krivenka is coming to us to Luxembourg as a LeavArc fellow. And she had a totally different approach. Instead of rereading and rethinking the decisions made by the first annotator, she decided to use named entity recognition tool and NCONC. So NCONC is a corpus linguistic analysis tool, which allows you to extract the information in a distance reading. You don't have to read. You'll find this in the text, what you think is sensitive differently. And named entity recognition basically gives you all the names mentioned in the text, locations, person's name, organizations, and so on. Everything would helps a future misuser of the interview to reconstruct the identity of the speaker, if the speaker wanted the identity to be hidden. So you see, there are 2 screenshots from Anna Krivenka's presentation. So this is how it's going to look if you're looking for the named entity. So you'll be finding everything what has actually its own name. Yes, please.
It's extracted from the speech.
It's extracted from the text,
From the
transcription.
Uh-huh.
You need a transcription first. We might ask later whether there are some audio-based instruments as well. So, and we also have this named entity recognition. It's also as a training available on the GitLab, so you can play with this and try, extract all the names, organization, titles, and so on from text you have. And the final step is disclosure. So now, now we know exactly what we want to restrict and how it should be done. So Dr. Alessia Solovyova is another LeavArc fellow who was in Luxembourg for 2 months in 2025. And she developed from scratch actually an application. Before I show you the screenshots from the application, so I would like to show you the platform Oral History Digital, where the Luxembourgish part of collection is going to be displayed. It's basically already there. It's not available yet. This platform is giving you the chance to publish your collection. You still will be in charge of who is allowed to access the collection, but they can help you to restrict certain parts in the text, in the transcription. And also, once you provided them the transcript with the brackets around the sensitive information, it will become 3 crosses in the text. Everywhere where you put the brackets, like this is the name of my brother, this is organization where he worked. So everywhere where you put the brackets in the transcription, it will be 3 crosses in the subtitles, and it will be automatically muted on the website, so that you also don't hear this information. So the Luxembourgish part of the collection will be available there. It's already there, it's not accessible yet. So that's the idea. But the Polish and Ukrainian teams, they had a different understanding, how it should be displayed. So the collection is not on Oral History Digital. One of the features on the Oral History Digital, you can connect a map to your interview. It's manual encoding. You still have to, for example, through the named entity recognition, you can have the entire list of the locations mentioned, but you have to connect them to with the map manually. Once you did this, you just go on a location, you click, and you have a full menu in what interviews in these collections this location was mentioned. If you click on one of the interviews, you'll be navigated directly to the fragment. So if you are working on a geographical migration related topics, so that would be also a tool to use. Basically, every collection on Oral History Digital is offering this option. So for the local disclosure, Olesya Solovyova developed an app. I'm still calling this Solovyova app. She was modest enough to look at it's a UCOR app. Our legal department at the University of Luxembourg will have another suggestion how it should be called. So we are still figuring out what the final name of this application will be. But this is a possibility to disclose the collection locally. It will be disclosed in the library of University of Luxembourg, the Luxembourgish part. All the 3 collections will be accessible in Museum Zajezdnia in Wrocław in Poland, so that you can go physically, sit down in front of the computer, and you'll receive the access through this application. So the access, it is it's a Python-based system. She developed this from scratch. There was no template. And I think there's no analogs in the world existing, because I think we are the only one dealing with the war-related collection for the ongoing war, which has to be displayed now, because people are certainly collecting already testimonies, but we have a way to actually to disclose them while the war is still ongoing. So it's metadata and content driven. So that means you as a researcher will be the one, or your representative in the library, who will be responding to an application for the access. People will be saying like, I'm an artist, I would like to make a performance, it's a theater piece, I would like to listen to some interviews. So once you get this permission after verification of your identity granted, the application will be navigating you only to this part of the collection, which where the narrator said like, yes, my interview can be used for artistic reasons, only if you remove my name, or only if you remove my name and all the personal data. So everything is actually then done automatically, because the application is taking care of this. That's why we needed this model. That's why we needed the data model to define all the purposes for what can be used, all the sensitivity, because application will need this to go from timecode to timecode, restrict parts which should not be shown, and only show you something what is unrestricted. There is also some options like a research study, for example. It's only for the UCOR colleagues and partners who we have contracts with. Then you receive an unrestricted access to the transcript and to the interview. You can listen to the originals. So that can be done locally because you are in person sitting and your personality, your identity is verified. There's also a feature like migration path. You can individually track migration route of the narrator. And one of the biggest features of these applications, it's actually solving the problem of this heterogeneous data, because we have data on paper, which was scanned. Then it was inserted in the CAT-DV, enriched with other data. We already in Oral History Digital developed a topical index, which we also then integrated into the application. So the application is just genius. Okay, it's developer's genius. It's Dr. Olesya Solovyova who did all this. So, and then again, so it is metadata and content driven. So whatever was decided by the narrator to grant the access to, and whatever our annotators decided that should be hidden or not, the applications will be restricting and showing only something what's unrestricted for your purpose. This so most of the people didn't have any troubles with displaying the interview fully. Most of the people like said something what should not be restricted. But in certain cases, our annotators found situations where like, yes, this person didn't have any troubles. The person crossed everything. Oh, yes, you can publish this interview under my name. But then there's something like, I don't know, illegal military actions. If you have the name, if you have the context, and every time you remove the information, it will be indicated why it's removed. Military information. You can reconstruct what happened. What did this person do, for example? So that's this mosaic principle, you know, of reconstructing identities. So that's what the researchers had to take care of, to make sure that even the person is taking the full responsibility and doesn't have any problem by saying something. We as researchers, we needed like 4 eyes principle to make sure that it's actually okay to be published now. Yeah, and again, since it's all automated, there's no way there can be an error. There's no human errors possible anymore. You cannot accidentally send the wrong file. You cannot accidentally send the wrong version of the interview. It's all taken care of by the application. So we are coming to the closure. So the digital workflow, very schematically presented, looks like this. I was going with you like in the plan, my steps were numbered chronologically, but legal framework is actually applicable to every step we were doing in the workflow. So it starts with the data modeling. If you don't know what kind of data you're collecting, why, what for, how it should be organized, you might navigate towards certain problems. So that should be solved as soon as possible. So we did it in CMDI clearing. If you'll be working with this, they are like already components, the building blocks already there. You can use them, but you can create your own, as we created sensitivity. So in our data model, they're personal, technical, sensitive, and also institutional information. So interviewing and recording, so it's all stored in KDV in this multimedia asset management catalog. Transcriptions, yeah, again, you can either do it with automatic speech recognition, ASR, so as we did with partially with Whisper, or you can do it by human, but then you'll need this force alignment mechanism to create the time codes. Without time codes in the digital workflow, you are lost. Like you'll have to deal with interviews then individually. Who are you giving what version of interview? To solve all this, so our solution was like create the time codes for your transcriptions as soon as possible, and then every other step will be automatized. For identifying sensitive information, still need people. Still people. One is reading, the other one is using a tool to extract the sensitive information. So our tools were MaxQDA for the content analysis by the annotator one, and then named entity recognition and AdConc for the annotating by the corpus linguist. And the disclosure, yeah, we still highly recommend having a fantastic fellow who will come and develop for you this application, as we were lucky actually to get through Dr. Alexis Solovьев. So, and long story short, to conclude, actually, can this workflow, how should it be designed, and how is it possible? So we still think that we'll be able to write a paper, to finish a paper we are writing now. To show that yes, it's possible, but you actually need a carefully constructed multi-layered digital workflow. There are many steps. I mean, you have to understand, I'm not a computer scientist. Like I'm a migration scholar, so my background is in media and literature, in history. But if I can do this, so everyone can. And I think that gives fantastic opportunities to disclose the material now, because as we started, we were thinking like, oh, we're collecting material for the future generations of scholars. So 30 years later, if someone will be writing about this war, they won't have to run as we do it now, like looking for eyewitnesses of the Second World War. Yeah, so that it will be all prepared for them. Until we realize, like, no, it should be disclosed now, but it should be only done in a certain way. And I hope that I persuaded you by showing in what way did we do this. So, hvala za pozornost. I'm looking forward to your questions, and thank you very much for your attention.
Questions, please, maybe from the audience first.
The questions don't have to be technical. I'm always looking forward to a general conversation about how to treat our eyewitnesses and historical material and subjective sources. Yeah.
But maybe a short question. So, in the database for digital history, for the big one where you have the censored testimonies.
Yeah.
TV.
In KTV?
Yes. So that one is censored, but in UCore, whatever you can access is the full interview in the application you developed.
It depends on the purpose.
Yeah.
So, the purpose which we have stored in the metadata will decide about
Okay.
what version of interview you're going to get. Full access is only for one purpose. This is research study, and we've been your core team members in 3 countries and all the partners working with us on this project. So next the purpose will be educational goals, academic communication, exhibition, artistic, that will be all restricted already.
Okay, but the levels of restrictions are different, or are they the same for all other groups, let's say?
So the levels the people could choose from, they are the same. There are 4 options. Yes, no, yes
Exactly.
without personal information, yes without my name. So the levels are the same, but where people put the crosses, it depends. And the applications will recognize it automatically. So if people say like, yes, you can use it for the educational goals, but no for artistic, the applications will show you this interview for the, if you are applied for artistic, but not for the educational, vice versa. So you won't even know that the interview exists. So,
Thank you.
And probably, do we have any other questions from the audience? And maybe you will expand a little bit more on how the authorization process is envisioned, because there were discussions about it. I'm not sure if it is finalized. But it's a very interesting process just to share the thought process and the decision making, how applications and authorization will work, especially after the project is over.
Yes, so we actually on this coming Friday we have a legal department and the data protection officer meeting, so where we'll be speaking about this. So the idea was that in the application there is a way, so you have to, like the same on the oral history digital, this platform, the same in the application. So you have to send an email where you'll be asking for the access. So you have to identify yourself somehow in the digital space. Since it's for the local display, you will have to be there as a person with your ID to prove that you send the email that you're requesting this access. This access will be granted to you by the researcher team or by its representatives, like in the library, for example, so that your data will be recorded in a special folder that you asked for this access, and then you'll be granted the access according to your purpose. So you have to complete a form in this, which will be sent after you request this on email. Once you completed the form, your identity is verified and your purpose is cleared. The access will be granted within this Wi-Fi network with a link which has expiration date. So we were speaking about like, oh, can someone take this link and open this somewhere else? No, it won't be possible. So there are like a lot of cybersecurity measurements I cannot speak about, mostly because I don't understand them properly. But that was the idea. So that the process is still happening in the digital space, but a person is in front of you. So it's not like someone is hacking, pretending to be me, but I didn't ask, but people are pretending that, no, it's not going to happen. The application is for the local disclosure. That means a person should be there. Of course, people can take, I don't know, screenshots from the screen, photograph them, film, whatever, but that's not a problem anymore because the application will be only displaying to you something what you're allowed to see. Yeah, we don't want them to store this information, to take them. So we rather prefer that they write this down. But that's not important anymore. Most important that whatever you see is only this disclosed, what's allowed to be disclosed about this narrator, this context, and so on. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
but we are figuring out like the legal department will take time and have their suggestions how it should be done.
any other questions? Isidora, I think so. But Isidora first, and then.
I just have a very general question, and this was very interesting. I don't work on oral history or anything more contemporary, so it was just interesting to hear. But I'm wondering if you can say something more about the experience of working on this database during the war. So whatever comes to your mind that you would like to share.
Okay.
Especially as you said that much of the team is Ukrainian, and it must be also emotionally kind of.
Yeah, I think you answered the question. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's I think for the interviewing experience, it's so you see, like I was working for the German television for many years, so I was recording interviews with the eyewitnesses of the Second World War. So you think that you are prepared. You don't understand like what kind of burden it is on you and on your partner. So, but most of the time I was a young journalist, and they were like people in the age of my grandparents. So this age distance and the time distance, it's kind of working for you. You're gonna cry in the interview, but you know it, and you go to it with this consciousness, and you know that you're gonna hug at the end, and you know that it will be difficult for them to forget you rather than for me, because I have a lot of them. But for them, I might be the one who ever talked to them about this war experience. They want to call you later. You will be on the other interview. You will be calling back. So you have this understanding, and you think like, okay, let's do it. I know how it works. It doesn't work like this, because this war is happening. You are attacked because you are not the aggressor. Then if you're not, you cannot be just a neutrally, looking person. No. It's also about you. So talking to these people, and this is people all of a sudden in my age or younger. So there's no distance in time. There's no distance in age, in social class. They're women like me. And of course, so because it's happening now, so like we're very grateful that we have the psychological support. Like I was going to someone to talk, about this. But on the other hand, I mean, you are driven by this mission. You don't understand what you're doing this for. You still have this idea that if it won't be disclosed now, because we didn't know back then, will we have this genius Alessia Solovьeva who will come and solve the disclosure problems for us or not? But we thought like, okay, maybe the future generations, at least and I don't know how it felt in Slovenia and in Luxembourg. It felt like the world is going down, but only we were expecting a huge, explosion, and it's over. And then we realized, no, it's slow-mo. It's in slow motion. It's going down in front of your eyes, and you cannot hold this. And you were like, okay, maybe this interview collection, if I don't know, humanity doesn't exist anymore, or some survive. And then they'll discover this connection, and then people will be telling them. So you're still kind of, driven by this pretty idealistic ideas. Why are you doing this? To these people, to do this to the people, it was a little bit kind of almost pleasing, because you've seen that people can, they have a relief that you are used as a therapeutical instrument, that people come to you to talk just to be able to talk about this to someone, because you cannot talk this in front of your kids, you cannot do this to your spouses on the phone. So in this term, so it was we still cry and still hug, and still call next day, but it is an amazing, enriching experience. We started at the University of Luxembourg an association for the displaced Ukrainian scholar. The name is Luxembourg Ukrainian Research Network, short LURN. And because we had all these Ukrainian scientists around you, so it was, so on one hand, most of the people we interviewed for our collection are Ukrainian scholars. So we were talking to our colleagues. When we were asking them, you know, to this co-shared experience on the oral history, I mean, they were delivering a proper analysis. They're people who are trained to be, you know, to do analytical work. This experiment about the participatory approach, where we were together finding out like what is sensitive, where are the boundaries, how do you define this? You just see that this is a fantastic intellectual space, and the work we are doing. It's like, why is it only happening because of the war? Can we have all the same only without the war? So, in this term, sorry, I'm talking way too much because I think you just pinned exactly the emotion. Yeah. So it is. It's also hard to keep the distance. So this, I think, this is the biggest disadvantage of the of doing contemporary history, because you are part of it. Like we were having this conversation with Pani Hanna Kravenko, like what's contemporary history? Like where contemporary ends and contemporary history begins. And the classical definition, I think you need 30 years to say like, okay, what happened 31 years ago should be history, but what happened 29 years ago, probably not. But it's finally defined by, are you a part of this or not? And since we are all a part of it, so it's questionable. I mean, how much objective research you can deliver when you are so subjective. On the other hand, this is also the post-modern world where you are allowed to be subjective again. So in this term, yeah, thank you for asking, and sorry for giving services. But yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and another question from the audience, please. Yeah. Yeah.
But I just remembered I was watching some retrospective documentary about Nova Gorica here in Slovenia that was said like during the war and after their mother and daughter were doing this documentary, and they said like a camera booth, and then people just came in, and it was all like they could tell anything to the camera, but nobody else knew about it. And now the documentary is out after decades, and people are not like even alive anymore, but they just said to the camera, and everything was like in secret, nobody knew. And then they as the relative, they can like do it as a documentary, and it's amazing how people talk to the camera, not to the person. So it's like amazing experience. Maybe you could think about that also.
Not quite digitally born, but
Right.
It's different if you talk to a person, and maybe it's more sensitive or maybe not. But if you are like in a booth and just talk to the camera and like don't think as if somebody's taping you, maybe you could get a different interview.
Probably. But the reason we were interviewing people, so it started as a documentary initiative, but it is a research project. So questions we were asking, this is questions of our team members. People are researching, they're writing about childhood, they're writing about family dynamics, they're writing embodiment, so their migration experiences. That's why we were asking people. So because we had research questions, we wanted to research on something, everyone had a specific topic, and the questions are based actually on our scholar interest. So I think it is a fantastic example for a documentary initiative, when you just document what's on people's mind, but we are getting money for doing research. So we need to publish papers. For this, we need some oral history interviews, with this or that kind of answer, so we can analyze this.
Can you like limit conversation that you have. Like you have a question, but if a person is involved, like in a war or something like that, they're gonna talk like all around it, not just one thing.
Yeah. So that was also kind of a conversation. So now we finished the recording. So there won't be any interviews recorded anymore. It's just as a good idea for the future. Yeah. But it was also like a lot of discussions about, you know, the interviewing protocols and the approaches and how do you ask and whether you can ask twice if people are not giving you the answer. It's also kind of very different from journalism. Like if I'm interviewing someone for a documentary, I need an eyewitness to a part in the movie. So I'll be asking so often and so differently until people are finally giving me the answer. And they agreed to the interview because they're ready to talk about this. So I'm not forcing them, but I'm inviting them to talk about something what I need for the documentary. But if I'm doing a research project, I mean, I can ask, but if the person is talking around but not giving me the answer, like why would I ask the second time? So we move to the next question. So if you don't want to answer, it's fine. So you see, it depends on there's oral history and oral history. Finally, what's the purpose? What for are you interviewing people?
Do we have any questions online? Good or not? Any final round of questions? Oh, is there anything that you would like your audience to ask? One last, the final answer to the unasked question.
The final answer. I always close my interviews with the questions. Is there something what you wanted to talk and I didn't ask you? Yeah. Are you missing a question? So
Yeah.
that's how I finish asking people. But in this term, you're asking me.
Yeah.
So did I
From you?
did I expect some questions? Yes, I did expect that you'll be saying like, oh, there's something missing in your digital workflow, that someone will, I don't know, say like, oh, that sounds very good, unless you, and then
Not from us.
you're a very kind audience. Like, you know, if you're gonna do this, you'll probably do it later individually. And by the way, in your presentation, you were missing a point. So
I think none of us do really oral history actively present right now. So
So we are just impressed and we don't have any
Exactly, yes.
criticism.
exactly.
criticism is good. That's what I learned over the years. That's if people are criticizing you, they're not trying to crush your little soul. They are actually trying to improve your work. So in this term, I'm very happy actually to be in Ljubljana and to have this exchange, you know, with other people. I mean, first of all, thank you for giving us for 2 months the Krevenko. So that's it's an amazing experience to see another scholar working differently with different tools, having brilliant ideas how to solve, you know, the problems. Because when we invited the colleague from Ljubljana, so we had a list of tasks for her. She looked at this, she said like, okay, I don't understand what you want to do. We can solve it differently. So that's a very enriching experience. Really happy to be here. I mean, Slovenia is a big discovery for me. So I'm first time here. By now, like I like everything. Ask me at the end of my fellowship, I might have different impressions, but if it goes like this, it's just fantastic. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your inspiring conversation, for your talk and the conversation, the discussion afterwards. So, thank you.